Hello and welcome. I'm Kashif Shahzada, and today I'm going to talk about interfaith dialogue. Specifically, what is interfaith dialogue? Why is interfaith dialogue important? And what are the means and the methods by which interfaith dialogue occurs? How is it organized? So, these are the main three topics regarding interfaith dialogue that I'm going to discuss with you today. First of all, what is interfaith dialogue? Interfaith dialogue is interaction, communication, or conversation between people of different faiths, people of different religious persuasions and backgrounds. When people belonging to one faith come into contact and have a discussion about their faith, and they also listen to the faith of the other person, then that is what interfaith dialogue is all about. So interfaith dialogue is essentially a conversation or a communication or an interaction between people belonging to different religions. A salient feature of interfaith dialogue is that in it people come from not a position of neutrality but their own religious perspective. For example, there may be Christians who have a dialogue, who enter into conversation with Muslims. So they would speak from a Christian perspective, and the Muslims would speak from a Muslim perspective. They are not coming from a position of neutrality. They are coming from the position of their own faith traditions. So interfaith dialogue is a dialogue, a conversation, a talk between people of different faiths, not of the same faith, but people of different faiths who address a particular subject or a theme from their religious standpoint, from their own religious viewpoint. So this is a salient feature of interfaith dialogue, and this is what makes it unique from other forms of dialogue, because religion is the central feature of this conversation. It is because of religion and because of religious belief that this dialogue is taking place. Hans Kung, a Swiss theologian, has famously said that there can be no peace on earth unless there is peace between religions, and there can be no peace between religions unless there is dialogue between religions. When we look at our fragmented world today, we see how true it is. The conflicts that are prevailing in the world are largely, they have at the back of those conflicts, within the roots of those conflicts, religious sentiments. Look at religious conflicts around you. You will find that it is religious communities that are in conflict with one another, that are the belligerents that are being involved. Take the Israeli and the Arab conflict, for example. You have Israelis who are predominantly Jews on one side, and you have Arabs who are predominantly Muslims at another side. There are also Arab Christians, of course, we know that. So essentially, this is a conflict which is a territorial dispute, but it is also a religious dispute, because you have people belonging to different religions coming together and having a conflict about a piece of territory, a piece of land. Take the Kashmir dispute, for example, here in South Asia between India and Pakistan. India, predominantly a Hindu country. Majority of people are Hindus. Pakistan, majority people are Muslims. So you have one religion on one side, the other religion on another side, and you have a territorial dispute. So it is a territorial dispute, but it is also a dispute in which people of faiths are involved, and often those disputes, they take a religious color. So this is why we see that a lot of disputes, territorial disputes, and a lot of wars and conflicts that are out in the world, they have at their core religion and belief. Take the dispute, for example, between the Irish and the English. The English being Protestants, the Irish being largely Catholic. So you have another case whereby there is a religious dispute, but It is not a dispute just between people belonging to two different ethnicities. It is also a dispute whereby people have different religions. People belong to one religion on one side, people belong to another religion on another side. The Falklands War, the Spanish and the English, the wars between Spain and between Britain, you had Catholics and you had Protestants. So the point I'm trying to make is that when you look at the disputes that are out in the world, then you will always see a religious element to those disputes. So Hans Kung's statement is very much true for today. There can be no peace in the world unless there is peace among the religions. And most importantly, there can be no peace among religions unless there is dialogue, unless there is conversation, unless there is contact and communication between religions. So this is what interfaith is all about. Interfaith dialogue is about building peace, building trust, building contact and communication, about removing misconceptions, about removing any prejudices that may prevail within members of one community for another community. This is something very, very important. This is something that we need to do and we need to formalize at a grassroots level. So interfaith dialogue is dialogue between adherents of different religions, and there is a need for it. There is a very tangible, very potent, very pertinent need for it in the world that we are living in. Why does interfaith dialogue occur? It occurs for a wide variety of reasons. There isn't just one rationale for it. There isn't just one reasoning for which interfaith dialogues are organized. There are a number of reasons. Let me go through a few of them. The first reason, and the most common reason for which people belonging to one religion would address or would come into contact with people belonging to a different religion, is proselytism. Proselytism is when you preach your religion to a group with a view to convert it, with a view to make it change its existing beliefs and adopt new beliefs. This is a very common rationale for interfaith dialogue. There are many religions in the world, and some of them tend to be very heavily engaged in proselytism. They don't want to just keep their faith to themselves. They want to share their faith with the whole world. Two of such religions are Christianity and Islam. Christianity is a missionary faith. It is not a faith whereby you would adopt it and you would keep it within the four boundaries of your own dwelling, your own home only. Christians are supposed to go out and preach the gospel to the far corners of the earth, and they have done so. They have sent missionaries to faraway lands. They have converted entire countries into Christianity. Similarly, Islam is a missionary religion. Muslims are required to preach their faith, to teach their faith to others, and Muslims are required to share their faith, to propagate their faith, and Muslims have done that. Muslims have Islam started from Arabia and it has reached the far corners of the world. It has gone as far as Indonesia. It has gone to Morocco. There are Muslims communities as well as Muslims who are growing in Europe, in non-Muslim lands as well. So Islam and Christianity are examples of religions that preach and proselytize. And proselytism is one component of interfaith dialogue. People belonging to one faith would come into contact and communication, would come and approach communities with a view to preach their religion. So this is one of the reasons of interfaith dialogue. Such a dialogue can also take a polemical format. It is an exercise in which debate occurs very heavily, and it can become contentious at times. Because what one is attempting to do in a dialogue of such a nature is to undermine the faith of the other. Interfaith dialogue for the purpose of proselytism involves one religious group going to preach their religion to another, and they would find faults in the religion or the religious beliefs of the target audience. and they would then come up with fault lines, and they would say that, look, your beliefs are not sound, and here is an alternative. So interfaith dialogue for the purpose of preaching and proselytism can have a polemical element to it. It can result in debate and dissent as well. That element is also there. But nevertheless, it is a very common purpose and rationale for interfaith dialogue. The other purpose and rationale for interfaith dialogue is, as I said, more exploratory. It is more to do with people exploring the beliefs of another faith, a faith different from their own faith. And such a dialogue is more to do with to foster understanding of the other. We often have information and knowledge about faith traditions from our own sources, from the communities in which we grew up. And if that religion is not the religion that is practiced within the community, then obviously it is not portrayed in a very positive light. So you may be perhaps somebody growing up in a Christian household, and the knowledge and the information regarding Islam that has been conveyed to you would not be very sympathetic. It would not be in a positive light. You may be told things which are not necessarily true, which are negative. Therefore, you owe it to yourself to have a first-hand view of what Islam is all about. And in order to do that, you need to come into contact with the practitioners of that faith, with practitioners of Islam, to tell you that what Islam is to them and how they see the world and how they are to relate with the world around them, with their surroundings. So this element of interfaith dialogue is more exploratory, when people go out to explore the faith of the other, to search the ultimate truth. The central theme of any such initiatives is the quest for the ultimate, the quest for the divine. So for this purpose, people would also go out as seekers, as investigators of faith, and they would then come together with the faith of people who are not from their own background, from their own community. So this element is more to do with exploratory incursions into territories which are not one's own. Interfaith dialogue is also sponsored. It is also patronized by governments and by rulers specifically where there is a very diverse community that is being governed. When the demographics of the community are as such that you have a number of faith traditions within the community, and they are all having a shared space. So then governments would take the lead to initiate interfaith dialogue for the purpose of fostering cordial community relations, for the purpose of diffusing any tensions that there may be, and building trust and cooperation amongst the various communities. And this is something very, very important, because we live today in times where we have people belonging to different faiths live amongst us. So a knowledge of their faith traditions and what it is that makes them tick is important for us to know. What are their celebrations, what are their key beliefs, what are their dress codes, what are their dietary prohibitions, so that when we interact with them, we are more aware of the sensitivities that are involved. So interfaith dialogue is also patronized by governments. Sometimes such initiatives are also done for political reasons. Let me give you an example. If a certain faith community is demanding separation, is leaning towards having a territory of their own, they want governance and self-rule, then the ruling community, the community that is ruling amongst them, within whom they are a majority, that would not like that. That the majority population and their rulers would want that piece of land to remain within their territory. So they would then also initiate some sort of interfaith programs to assimilate that community which is demanding separation, which is demanding self-rule, self-governance, so that they remain part of the larger territory which is being governed. So interfaith always is not, something that is organized from a grassroots level by practitioners of the faith. They are also sponsored and supported by those who are in power, those who are the rulers, and with specific political objectives. So interfaith dialogues and interfaith interactions are organized for such a wide variety of reasons. We have seen that they are organized for the purpose of proselytism, they may be organized for the purpose of community cohesion, for building peace and trust and harmony, and to make relations between communities cordial, and they are also organized for political reasons, whereby if there are any communities that want separation or that want self-rule, they want a territory for their own self, then the majority would not like that, and the majority would then initiate some sort of interfaith programs to assimilate the community with the majority. So that also happens, and then these initiatives are a part and parcel of the diverse society that is being focused upon. For Muslims, interfaith dialogue is important. It is important, obviously, for the purpose of spreading the faith, for the purpose of preaching. A Muslim is supposed to preach and to teach his religion and inform other people about his faith. That is a requirement within the scriptures, yes. But at the same time, in recent times, Islam has been under the spotlight because of a lot of negative things, and especially its portrayal within the media in the Western world especially, and within also other non-Muslim countries, is not very good. It is not portrayed in a positive light, and there are a number of distortions that are prevailing. So Muslims have a special duty to remove such distortions and misconceptions, so that prejudices are not prevailed in the world because of these wrong portrayals. And for that purpose, the thing is to get into first-hand contact with people belonging to other faiths and to inform them that, look, no, we are not like that. We are not the way that the media, the news channels, the newspapers are portraying us. We are different. We are different from that. And the best thing for you to find that out is to come into contact with us. Look at us. Look at how we live. Look at how we, treat minorities in our societies and what are our beliefs. So you need to have a first-hand experience of Muslim life and then form an opinion about it, rather than understand it through second-hand sources. This is an important point for which Muslims need to take the lead to enter into a dialogue with people belonging to different faiths. And it is a very important endeavor in the times that we are in. I'm sure you will agree with me. How to go about with interfaith dialogue? How does interfaith dialogue get organized formally? Well, there are many ways to it. There are many methods by which interfaith dialogue is organized. A very simple one is a seminar. You can organize an interfaith seminar or an interfaith conference. What that involves is you can have one speaker or two speakers or a number of speakers from different faith traditions, and you invite an audience over. The speaker gives a talk, and then there is a question and answer session after the talk, whereby people, the audience, who are from a very mixed background of faiths, they pose questions with a view to increase their understanding about the subject. So this is a common method of interfaith dialogue, and interfaith discussions, interfaith conferences, interfaith seminars are aimed specifically for that purpose. They are designed for that. The important thing in organizing such events is that the moderation should be good, because you have people coming from very different backgrounds who come to such events for a wide variety of purposes. So if the organization is not right, if the meeting is not moderated properly, things can go a bit out of hand. So a proper neutral moderator is needed for such interfaith dialogues to be successful and to be effective. So number one, you have interfaith meetings, interfaith conferences, or interfaith talks. Let's put it like that, in an interfaith talk, whereby you have a number of speakers coming and talking to you from their own faith perspective, and then you being in the audience, interacting with them and questioning them. The other method of interfaith dialogue, to promote interfaith dialogue and interfaith interaction, is to invite people belonging to different faiths to the faith of, to a ceremony or a celebration or an event belonging to another faith. So for example, you have Christmas. Now Christmas is a Christian celebration, but people belonging to other faith traditions can be invited to Christmas, and they are invited there not as participants. Obviously, the non-Christians do not believe in Christmas in religious terms. It is not a religious occasion for them. Then how is it that they are there? They are there as observers. They are looking at the rites and the traditions and the ideas behind the celebration, and they are there just as observers. So you have the method whereby you are inviting people belonging to different faiths to a faith celebration or a festival belonging to another faith. You have, for example, Ramadan. Ramadan is the Muslim month of fasting, and during this month, Muslims, they observe a fast during the day, and when it is sunset, then they sit together and they have a meal to break their fast. And for that breaking of the fast, which is known as iftar, non-Muslims can also be invited. They can be invited to share the meal and sit with Muslims and observe their ceremony. Obviously, while observing their dietary requirements that are important to their faith, still you have people belonging to different religions than Islam coming to an Islamic event and observing what the thing is all about. So this is one way whereby people belonging to one religious tradition, they invite outsiders to the faith, to their celebrations, to their ceremonies, so that the others can observe those ceremonies, they can observe those festivals, and they can observe those rituals, and with a view to enhance an awareness and understanding of that tradition. Another way, another method with which interfaith dialogue is promoted is through tours of religious places of worship. Now, religions have religious places of worship. The Christians have their churches, the Jews have their synagogues, the Muslims have mosques, the Hindus have their mandirs or temples, the Sikhs have their gurdwaras, and all these religious places of worship are hubs of activity. They are hubs of community. The community would go to these places of worship periodically at a particular time during the day or during the week, and they would perform certain ceremonies or religious activities would take place to them. So religious places of worship also have a very magnificent architecture. They are, marvelous buildings in their own right, and they are important landmarks in the community. So one way to improve inter-religious relations is to take a tour of such a place of worship and to show people outside the faith what the faith is all about by taking them to a journey to within the premises of the place of worship. For example, you have a masjid or a mosque, and you can invite people belonging to different faiths to your mosque, and you can show them what the mosque is all about. What is ablution, how the 5 daily prayers, the congregations are held, and so on and so forth. So tours to places of worship are an important element of interfaith dialogue and to promote cordial relations between communities. So we have seen what is interfaith dialogue, we have seen why interfaith dialogue is important, we have seen that what are the ways and the methods of promoting interfaith dialogue. I personally have been involved in the interfaith field for more than 2 decades. Formally, I was an officer at an interfaith NGO, IARF, in Oxford, the United Kingdom. It happens to be one of the world's oldest interfaith NGO, and I have also been a Muslim officer to Faiths in Further Education, which was a development project supported by the UK government. And I have also addressed a number of interfaith audiences, given lectures, talks, seminars, participated in meetings. So I bring a lot of experience to the field as well as some knowledge which you can benefit from. So if you need to get in touch with me regarding any guidance, any advice pertaining to the field of interreligious dialogue, feel free to get in touch with me. My contact details are given within this video, and I would be very happy to speak to you, to talk to you, and I look forward to hearing from you. So look after yourself and take care. Thank you for listening.